Hannah stared at the small screen on her credit chip. The numbers glowed back at her in pale blue. 5.00 credits. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. 5 credits. That was all she had left in the entire universe. Station Meridian 7 hummed around her with the sounds of 1,000 different aliens going about their business. Ships docked and undocked. Traders shouted prices in a dozen languages. Somewhere nearby, a food vendor was cooking something that smelled almost good. But Hannah couldn't afford any of it. 3 weeks ago, her cargo ship had been impounded. The docking fees were too high, and her last client had disappeared without paying her. Now her ship sat in the impound bay, and she was stuck here. No ship meant no work. No work meant no credits. And 5 credits meant she had maybe one more day before things got really bad. She walked through the lower market district with her hands in her pockets. The station was old, and this part was older. Rust stains marked the walls. Half the lights didn't work. Half the lights didn't work. Most humans didn't come out this far into space, and the aliens here made it clear they didn't care much for the ones who did. Hannah had tried everything. She'd asked for work at every docking bay, every cargo company, every repair shop. They all said the same thing: no jobs for humans. Some said it nicer than others. Most just looked at her like she was dirt on their boots. With 5 credits, she could buy 1 meal. Or she could rent a sleeping pod for 1 more night. Not both. She'd been sleeping in maintenance quarters for the past week, trying to save what little money she had. It wasn't working. She was hungry, tired, and running out of options. The sound hit her as she passed by a row of waste compactors. At first, she thought it was just the station's pipes making noise. But then, she heard it again. A small, weak crying sound. Like a kitten, but not quite. Hannah stopped. She should keep walking. She had her own problems. But the sound came again, and something in her chest pulled tight. She turned toward the COMPACTORS. Behind the largest one, in a gap between the machine and the wall, she found it. The creature was tiny, barely bigger than her hand. It had fur that might have been purple or blue under all the dirt and blood. 4 small legs. A long tail. Big eyes that looked up at her with a pain that needed no translation. "Oh no," Hannah whispered. She knelt down slowly. The creature tried to move away but couldn't. One of its back legs was bent wrong. Blood matted the fur on its side. Hannah had been in space long enough to recognize a few species. This was a Maratin cub. She'd only seen pictures before. Maratins rarely left their own space, and they definitely didn't come to places like this. They were supposed to be fierce warriors, proud and isolated. But this little one just looked scared and hurt. She reached out carefully. The cub made a weak hissing sound but didn't try to bite when she scooped it up. It was so light. Too light. It was dying. Hannah stood up with the cub cradled against her chest. Her mind raced. There was a medical bay on level 3. They had a veterinary drone for alien species. But it wasn't free. She'd checked before, hoping to find work there. The minimum charge for emergency treatment was 5 credits. 5 credits. Her last 5 credits. She looked down at the cub. Its breathing was shallow. Its eyes were closing. If she didn't do something now, it would be dead in an hour. Maybe less. Hannah thought about the nutrition bar she'd been planning to buy. About the sleeping pod. About the fact that without these 5 credits, she'd be completely broke on a station that didn't care if she lived or died. She thought about being smart, about survival, about taking care of herself first. Then the cub made another small sound, and Hannah started running. The medical bay was 12 corridors away. Hannah ran past surprised aliens, dodged cargo loaders, and jumped over a cleaning robot. The cub bounced against her chest. She whispered to it as she ran, telling it to hold on. That help was coming. Even though she didn't know if it could understand her words, she burst through the medical bay doors. The place was empty, except for the automated systems. A drone floated down from the ceiling, its sensors glowing. Emergency assistance required, Hana gasped. Veterinary treatment. This patient is critical. The drone scanned the cub. Lights ran along the creature's body. Species identified, Maratan. Age, juvenile. Status, critical. Multiple injuries detected. Emergency stabilization will cost 5 credits. Do you authorize payment? Hana pulled out her credit chip. Her hand shook as she held it up to the payment scanner. This was stupid. This was so stupid. She didn't even know this creature. It wasn't her responsibility. She had nothing. She was nobody. She needed these credits. Authorization required, the drone repeated. Yes, Hana said. Yes, I authorize it. The chip beeped. The screen flashed. Balance, 0.00 credits. The drone moved quickly then. It took the cub from Hana's arms with gentle mechanical hands. It floated to a treatment table and began working. Lasers sealed wounds. Injections delivered medicine. A small cast formed around the broken leg. The cub cried out once, then went quiet. Patient stabilized, the drone announced after 10 minutes that felt like hours. Patient requires observation for 12 hours. Additional treatment may be necessary. Current balance due, 0 credits. Would you like to schedule follow-up care? I don't have any more credits, Hana said. She felt dizzy. What had she done? Understood. Patient will be held for mandatory observation period. You may wait in the visitor area. The drone placed the cub in a small recovery chamber. Through the clear walls, Hana could see its chest rising and falling. Steadier now. It was going to live. She sank into a chair in the waiting area. Her stomach growled. She had no money, no food, nowhere to sleep tonight. She just spent her last 5 credits on an alien creature that she couldn't even keep, but it was alive. That had to count for something. Hana pulled her knees up to her chest and wrapped her arms around them. The medical bay was warm, at least. Maybe they'd let her stay here for a while before security kicked her out. She closed her eyes and tried not to think about tomorrow. She didn't know that in orbit above the station, a Maratan warship had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. She didn't know that the little cub sleeping in the recovery chamber was the daughter of one of the most powerful leaders in the Maratan Empire. She didn't know that her choice to spend 5 credits was about to change not just her life, but the fate of the entire galaxy. For now, she just sat in the chair and tried to rest, happy that at least one small creature would see another sunrise. 2 days had passed since Hana spent her last credits. She'd been kicked out of the medical bay after the first night, but not before she managed to see the cub one more time. The little creature was doing better. Its eyes were brighter. The wounds were healing. Hana had named it Day, which meant great in Korean. It seemed fitting for such a small thing that fought so hard to live. But Hana's situation had gotten worse. She was hungry all the time now. She'd managed to steal a few scraps from the market when vendors weren't looking, but it wasn't enough. She slept in maintenance corridors, moving every few hours to avoid station security. Her clothes were dirty. Her body ached. The medical bay wouldn't let her take Day. The drone said someone had to pay for the cub's care or it would go to station animal control. Hana had tried to explain that she'd saved the cub, that she should be able to keep it, but the automated system didn't care about fairness. It only cared about credits. So every few hours, Hana would sneak back to the medical bay and press her face against the observation window. They would see her and make happy chirping sounds. The cub recognized her. That made Hannah feel a little less alone. On the morning of the third day, everything changed. Hannah was in the market, trying to find work, when she heard people talking. A group of alien traders stood near a food stall, their voices excited and nervous. "Did you see it? A Maratan warship just docked at the main port." "Maratans? Here. That's impossible. I saw it with my own eyes. Big as a moon. They're searching for something." Hannah's stomach dropped. "Maratans, here, looking for something." She thought about days sleeping in the medical bay. It couldn't be a coincidence. She started walking fast, trying to get back to the medical bay. She needed to warn someone, though she wasn't sure who or about what. Her mind raced with worry. She didn't make it far. Station Administrator Kento was standing in the middle of the market with 3 of his security guards. Kento was a villain, tall and thin with gray skin and too many arms. He was corrupt, and everyone knew it. He ran the station like his personal kingdom. "Listen up," Kento shouted. His voice echoed through the market. "The Maratans are offering a reward for information about a missing cub. 10,000 credits to anyone who can lead them to it." The market exploded with noise. 10,000 credits was more money than most people here would see in a year. Aliens started talking over each other, making plans, forming search parties. Hannah felt cold. 10,000 credits. For day, she backed away slowly, trying not to draw attention to herself. But Kento's eyes found her across the crowd. He smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "You," he said, pointing at her. "The human. I've been hearing interesting things. You brought an injured animal to the medical bay 2 days ago. What kind of animal was it?" Everyone turned to look at Hannah. She wanted to run, but there were too many people in the way. Just a small creature," she said. "I don't know what species." "Lying to a station administrator is a crime," Kento said. He started walking toward her. His guards followed. "I checked the medical bay records. Maratan cub, brought in by a human matching your description." "Where is it now?" "It's in the medical bay," Hannah said. Her heart pounded. "The drone is taking care of it." Kento's smile grew wider. "Wow, how convenient. You've just made me very rich, human. Guards, secure the medical bay. I'll be collecting that reward." He turned to leave. Hannah felt something hot rise in her chest. Anger. She'd saved. She'd spent everything she had to keep that little creature alive. And now this corrupt administrator was going to use the cub to make himself rich. "No," Hannah said. Kento stopped. He looked back at her. "What did you say?" "I said no." Hannah stepped forward. "I saved that cub. I spent my last credits on it when I had nothing. You don't get to just take it." Kento laughed. Several other aliens in the market laughed too. "You don't give me orders, human. You're nothing. You have no ship, no money, no power here. Get out of my way before I have you arrested." Hannah knew she should back down. She knew she couldn't win, but she couldn't let this happen. Not after everything. She ran. She heard Kento shouting behind her, heard the guards chasing. She dodged through the market, using her small size to slip between cargo containers and through gaps the larger aliens couldn't fit through. She had to get to day first. She made it to the medical bay, but 3 thugs were already there. Not station security. Private muscle. The kind of criminals Kento hired when he wanted something done quietly. They grabbed her as soon as she came through the door. Hannah fought, but they were stronger. One of them hit her in the stomach. She fell to her knees, gasping for air. "Get the cub," one thug said to another. "Boss wants it delivered within the hour." Through blurry eyes, Hannah saw the thug approaching the recovery chamber where they slept. The little cub was awake now, making frightened sounds. The thug reached for the chamber door. The wall exploded. Not really exploded, but it might as well have. The metal tore open like paper, and 3 figures stepped through. They were tall, covered in armor that seemed to shimmer and shift colors. Their helmets had sharp angles that looked like predator faces. Each one carried weapons that hummed with barely contained power. Myratans. The one in front moved so fast that Hannah barely saw it. One moment the thug was reaching for Day. The next moment he was on the ground, unconscious. The other 2 thugs tried to fight. It didn't matter. In seconds, all 3 were on the floor, and the Myratans hadn't even used their weapons. The lead Myratan's helmet retracted. Underneath was a face that looked almost feline, with golden fur and sharp features. Her eyes were bright amber, and they held an intelligence that made Hannah shiver. This was a warrior. A real one. "I am Captain Myra of the Eternal Dawn," the Myratan said. Her voice was rough but clear. "You will explain what is happening here." Now, Hannah tried to speak, but her stomach hurt too much. She pointed weakly at the recovery chamber where Day was crying. Captain Myra moved to the chamber. She looked at Day, and something in her fierce expression softened. She opened the chamber carefully and lifted the cub out. Day immediately stopped crying and snuggled against the Myratan's armor. "This is the ambassador's daughter," Myra said quietly. She turned to Hannah. "How did you find her?" "Behind. Waste compactor," Hannah managed to say. 2 days ago. She was dying. I brought her here." One of the other Myratans was scanning something on a device. "Captain, the medical records show this human paid for the cub's emergency treatment. She spent her last credits." Myra's amber eyes fixed on Hannah. "You spend your last credits to save a Myratan cub? Why?" Hannah didn't know how to explain. She needed help. That is not an answer. What did you expect to gain? Reward? Political favor? "I didn't know what she was," Hannah said. She managed to sit up a little straighter. "I just heard her crying. I couldn't leave her there." Myra stared at her for a long moment. Then she spoke to her companions in a language Hannah didn't understand. They responded. There seemed to be some disagreement. Finally, Myra nodded. She looked at Hannah again. "You are coming with us. The ambassador will want to speak with you. Am I under arrest?" "No, you are under protection." "There is a difference." Myra held out one clawed hand. "Can you stand?" Hannah took the hand and let the Myratan pull her to her feet. Her whole body hurt, but she could walk. She looked at Day, safe in Myra's arms, and felt a small bit of relief. "What about Kento? The station administrator?" "He will be dealt with," Myra said coldly. "Anyone who would threaten the ambassador's daughter will face Myratan justice." They walked out of the medical bay together. In the corridor, Hannah could see more Myratan soldiers securing the area. Station security was keeping their distance, and Kento was nowhere to be seen. As they headed toward the docking port where the Myratan warship waited, Hannah realized her entire world had just changed. She'd gone from a broke cargo hauler with nothing to lose to someone under the protection of one of the galaxy's most powerful species. All because she couldn't walk away from a crying cub. She just hoped it was protection and not a different kind of prison. The Myratan warship called Eternal Dawn was nothing like any ship Hannah had ever seen. It was huge, for one thing. Her entire cargo hauler could have fit in the landing bay 100 times over. But it was also beautiful in a way that made her throat tight. Every surface seemed alive with light, flowing in patterns that probably meant something if you knew how to read them. The Myratans had brought her aboard and taken her to medical facilities that made Station Meridian 7's drone look like a child's toy. They healed her injuries in minutes, gave her clean clothes that fit perfectly, fed her actual food, not the nutrition bars and recycled protein she'd been living on. Then they'd given her quarters, a whole room to herself with a bed that was actually soft. Hannah had stood in the doorway for 5 minutes, unable to believe it was real. After weeks of sleeping in corridors, having a room felt like a dream. But there were guards outside her door. Polite guards who brought her anything she asked for, but guards all the same. She wasn't a prisoner exactly, but she wasn't free to leave either. On the 3rd day aboard the ship, they came for her. Captain Myra herself arrived at the door. "Ambassador Taylin will see you now," Myra said. Her tone was formal, but not unfriendly. "Follow me." Hannah's stomach twisted with nerves. She'd been dreading this meeting. Ambassador Taylin was Day's mother, and from what little Hannah had learned, she was one of the most powerful people in the Maratan Empire. A member of their High Council. Someone who could probably have Hannah killed with a single word. They walked through corridors that seemed to shift and change. Other Maratans they passed would stop and stare at Hannah. She was apparently the first human most of them had ever seen in person. Their looks weren't hostile, but they were intense, calculating, like they were trying to solve a puzzle. The ambassador's chambers were at the heart of the ship. The doors opened silently, and Hannah stepped into a room that took her breath away. One wall was completely transparent, showing the stars outside. The other walls displayed art that seemed to move and breathe. In the center of the room, sitting on a raised platform, was Ambassador Taylin. She was larger than Captain Mira, with darker fur that held streaks of silver. She wore robes that shimmered with the same light patterns Hannah had seen throughout the ship. Her eyes were deep green, and when they focused on Hannah, the human felt like every secret she'd ever had was being pulled out and examined. But next to Taylin sat Day. The little cub looked healthy now, her fur clean and shining. When she saw Hannah, she made excited chirping sounds and tried to run forward. Taylin caught her gently with one hand. "Day remembers you," Taylin said. Her voice was deep and carried weight. "She has been asking for you." Hannah didn't know what to say. Is she okay?" "She is fully healed, thanks to your intervention." Taylin gestured to a cushion in front of her platform. "Sit. We have much to discuss." Hannah sat, trying not to shake. Captain Mira stood behind her like a statue. "I have reviewed the records from the station," Taylin continued. "I have spoken to witnesses. I have seen the medical base data. I know what you did. What I do not understand is why." "I already told Captain Myra," Hannah said. "Day needed help. You had 5 credits. Your last 5 credits. You were starving. You had no home. Yet you spent this money not on yourself, but on an alien creature you did not know. Yes. Why?" Taylin leaned forward. "What did you hope to gain?" "Nothing," Hannah said. "I wasn't thinking about gaining anything. I couldn't let her die." Taylin's eyes narrowed. "You expect me to believe you helped with no thought of reward? No plan to leverage this later? You humans are known for your opportunism." Hannah felt a flash of anger. "I don't care what you believe. I know what I did and why I did it. If you're just going to accuse me of lying, then why am I here?" Captain Mira made a low sound, like a growl. But Taylin held up one hand. "Peace, Myra. The human has courage, at least." The ambassador studied Hannah for a long moment. "You speak boldly for someone at my mercy." "I'm tired of being afraid," Hannah said. "I've been afraid for weeks. Afraid I'd starve. Afraid I'd die on that station with nobody caring. I helped your daughter because it was the right thing to do. If that's not a good enough reason for you, then I don't know what else to say." To Hannah's surprise, Taylin smiled. It wasn't a warm smile, but it wasn't cruel either. "Commander Sung, come forward." A door opened and another Maratan entered. This one was smaller, leaner, with fur that was almost white. He carried a data tablet. Commander Sung is my aide and intelligence officer, Taylin explained. I asked him to research your species, to try to understand your actions. Sung, share what you have learned. Sung bowed to the ambassador, then looked at Hana. I analyzed 10,000 human news reports, historical records, and behavioral studies from across your worlds. What I found was unexpected. He activated his tablet, and images appeared in the air between them. Hana saw humans pulling people from burning buildings, doctors treating wounded enemies, volunteers rebuilding homes after disasters, strangers forming chains to rescue someone from drowning, scientists sharing discoveries freely with rivals. Humans demonstrate what they call altruism at rates far exceeding other known species, Sung said. You sacrifice for strangers. You risk your lives for those who cannot repay you. You give without expecting return. He looked at Taylin. At first, I thought these records were propaganda, but they are consistent across all human cultures and throughout your history. Impossible, Captain Myra said. No species behaves this way naturally. There must be social contracts, obligations. Sometimes, Sung agreed. But often, there is nothing. Just humans helping because someone needs help. Taylin was quiet for a long time. She stroked Day's fur absently while the cub played with the edge of her robe. We Maratans evolved as solitary hunters, she said finally. We cooperate because of honor codes and hierarchy. We protect our own because it serves our survival. But helping strangers? Sacrificing for those outside our family group? She shook her head. This is foreign to us. It's foreign to most species, Sung added. I researched others. The Velions cooperate through mutual benefit contracts. The Kresh have hive structures. The Terrans operate on strict reciprocity. Humans are unique in their capacity for what they call compassion. Why? Taylin asked, looking at Hana. Why does your species behave this way? What advantage does it give you? Hana thought about it. I don't know if it's an advantage. Maybe we're just wired this way. We're social creatures. We survived on Earth by helping each other. Maybe that got into our DNA somehow. She shrugged. Or maybe we just decided that life is better when people care about each other. Many species are social, Captain Myra pointed out. That does not explain this level of self-sacrifice. Maybe not, Hana agreed. But it's who we are. Humans can be terrible too. We've done awful things to each other throughout our history. But we've also done beautiful things. We've chosen to be better than our worst instincts. Taylin stood up. She was even more impressive at full height. Day climbed onto her shoulder and watched Hana with bright eyes. The galaxy is changing, the ambassador said. War is coming. The Kryn swarm expands from the south. The coalition is failing because its members do not trust each other. They cooperate only when forced. She walked to the transparent wall and looked out at the stars. What if humanity's compassion could change that? What if your species could teach others to care? I'm just one person, Hana said. I can't teach the galaxy anything. No, Taylin agreed. But you can be an example. Your actions saved my daughter. That act has value beyond the life of one cub. It shows what might be possible. She turned to face Hana again. The Maradan High Council is debating what to do about humanity. Some say your species is too weak, too new, too emotional. Others say you should be left alone to develop naturally. I say you should be embraced as equals. But I need proof that what happened on that station was not an aberration. I need to know if humans can truly be what Sung's research suggests. How will you prove that? Hana asked, though part of her feared the answer. There's a human colony called Haven Point. The Kryn scouts are approaching it. We could warn them, give them time to evacuate. Taylin's eyes were hard now. Or we could see what humans do when faced with an impossible choice. Do they run? Do they fight for strangers? Do other humans come to help? Hannah stood up fast. You can't use people as test subjects. Those are real lives. 20,000 lives, Talin said calmly. Against billions if the galaxy falls to the Kryn. If humanity is truly as compassionate as you claim, proving it could save countless worlds. That's not fair, Hannah said. No, it is not. But it is necessary. Talin walked back to her platform. The decision is already made. The test will happen. But I wanted you to understand why. She looked at Day, then back at Hannah. You saved one small life when you had nothing to gain. Let us see if your species will save many when the cost is high. Hannah wanted to argue more, wanted to scream that this was wrong. But looking at Talin's face, she knew it wouldn't change anything. The ambassador of the Maratan Empire had decided to test humanity, and Hannah could only pray that her species would pass. The warning reached Haven Point with 72 hours to spare. Hannah watched it happen from the bridge of the Eternal Dawn. Standing next to Captain Myra, the message was simple and direct. Kryn scouts approaching. Attack imminent. Evacuation advised. Haven Point was a farming colony. 20,000 humans living on a world with 3 moons and endless golden fields. They grew food that fed 5 other colonies. Most of the residents had never seen combat. Many had children. They were ordinary people trying to build a life far from Earth. Ambassador Talin stood at the center of the bridge, surrounded by holographic displays showing Haven Point and the approaching Kryn ships. Other observers were there too, representatives from a dozen coalition species, all watching to see what humans would do. Evacuation transports are standing by, Commander Soom reported. They could remove the entire population in 60 hours if the colony cooperates. And the Earth fleet? Talin asked. 3 weeks away at best. Haven Point has no military presence. Just civilian security with light weapons. Hannah felt sick. This was wrong. These people were being used as test subjects, and there was nothing she could do about it. She'd argued with Talin for hours. The ambassador had listened politely and changed nothing. The first response from Haven Point came 12 hours after the warning. A video message from the colony's governor, a middle-aged woman named Kim Yuna with tired eyes and dirt under her fingernails. We've received your warning, Governor Yuna said. We're grateful for it. We're beginning evacuation procedures for the children, elderly, and those unable to fight. But Haven Point is our home. Some of us will stay. We'll defend it. Murmurs went through the alien observers. Captain Myra's ears twitched with surprise. Foolish, one observer said. A Velon diplomat. They cannot win. They should run. But Hannah felt pride swell in her chest. Foolish maybe, but brave. So brave, more messages came in over the next day. The colony militia was organizing. Farmers were welding armor plates onto tractors. Engineers were building barricades. They were asking Earth for help, but everyone knew help wouldn't come in time. What happened next surprised everyone, even Hannah. Ships started arriving at Haven Point. Not military ships. Not Earth fleet vessels. Civilian ships. Cargo haulers like the one Hannah used to have. Mining vessels. Transport ships. Even a few colony ships changed course mid-journey. What are they doing? Talin asked, watching the displays. Commander Soom was pulling up data frantically. They're responding to Haven Point's distress calls. I'm counting. 15 ships so far. No, 20. More coming out of faster-than-light travel every few minutes. Where are they from? Captain Myra demanded. Everywhere. New Sol Colony. Bright Harbor. Trinity Station. Some are independent traders. Others are from settlements. Haven Point has never even traded with. A new video message came through. This one was from a cargo captain named Lee Hyo, standing on his ship's bridge with his crew behind him. They all looked scared but determined. "We heard Haven Point needs help," Lee said. "We're not soldiers. We're just haulers. But we're human, and humans don't leave each other behind. We're coming." Another message. Another ship. A mining vessel captain named Park Isiel. "My son lives on Haven Point, but even if he didn't, we'd come. Nobody fights alone." Another. Another. The messages kept coming. Hannah watched them all with tears in her eyes. "They know they cannot win," the valiant diplomat said. "Why do they come? There is no profit in this. No advantage. They come because they are needed," Hannah said quietly. "That's reason enough." By the time the Kryn scouts arrived, 43 human ships had gathered at Haven Point. The colony population had evacuated about 5,000 people, mostly children and those who couldn't fight. 15,000 stayed behind. The ships brought another 2,000 volunteers. Hannah had asked Taylin to let her go down to the surface, to help, to stand with her people. The ambassador had refused. "You will observe from here. You are too valuable to risk." So Hannah watched from the bridge as the Kryn scouts dropped into normal space. There were 5 of them. Organic ships that looked like they'd grown rather than been built. Each one was the size of a city block, covered in weapons that were part of their living structure. Kryn scouts were still incredibly dangerous, capable of devastating an undefended colony in hours. The human defenders looked pathetic in comparison. Tractors with welded armor. Mining lasers repurposed as weapons. A handful of actual defensive guns meant for asteroid defense. It should have been a massacre, but the humans didn't run. The battle started at dawn on Haven Point. The Kryn ships descended through the atmosphere, their weapons already firing. The human defenders returned fire. Knowing their weapons barely scratched the enemy hulls. In orbit, the civilian ships attacked. Cargo haulers rammed Kryn vessels. Mining ships used their industrial tools as makeshift weapons. It was chaos. It was desperate. It was impossible to watch without feeling something catch in your throat. On the ground, farmers fought with the fury of people defending their homes. When buildings fell, they pulled survivors out and kept fighting. When weapons ran out, they used tools. When tools broke, they used their hands. Hannah watched a video feed from the surface. A man named Choi Min-ho, a teacher before the attack, was organizing a group of civilians to evacuate a school that had been hit. Kryn ground forces were approaching. Choi and 5 others stayed behind to hold them off, giving the children time to escape. They all died, but the children lived. "This is madness," the valiant diplomat said. "They are throwing their lives away." "No," Captain Myra said softly. She was watching the battle with an expression Hannah had never seen on her face before. "They are buying time for others. They are sacrificing themselves so strangers might live." A cargo ship called the Morning Star took critical damage. Its captain, a woman named Jung Hannah, could have ejected and been picked up by another vessel. Instead, she aimed her dying ship at a Kryn vessel and hit full thrust. The explosion took out the Kryn ship's weapons array. Why? Another observer asked, a reptilian alien from a species Hannah didn't recognize. Why did they do this? They gained nothing from death. They gained the knowledge that they mattered, Hannah said. That they made a difference. That others will live because they fought. Hour after hour, the battle raged. The humans were losing. Everyone could see it. But they kept fighting. And then something happened that no one expected. The first non-human ship to join. The fight was a Taran merchant vessel. It dropped out of faster than light travel and immediately opened fire on the Kryn. Its captain sent a simple message. Watching this broadcast. Can't just watch anymore. We're helping. Then a Kresh exploration ship joined in. Then 2 Velion transports. Then more. One by one, ships from different species arrived at Haven Point. None of them had orders to be there. None of them had treaties obligating them to help. They came because they saw humans fighting impossible odds, and something in them couldn't look away. Ambassador Talon stood motionless at the center of the bridge. Around her, the observers were silent. On the surface of Haven Point, Governor Yuna was coordinating the defense from a bunker that had taken 3 direct hits. She was bleeding from a head wound, but she kept giving orders, kept organizing, kept her people fighting. The Eternal Dawn's tactical officer announced, "The Kryn scouts are retreating. They're heavily damaged. They're jumping to faster than light travel." The bridge erupted in surprised voices. The Kryn had retreated. Against a force that should have been easy to destroy, they'd retreated. Haven Point had survived. The cost had been terrible. 800 dead. Thousands wounded. Half the colony's buildings destroyed. But they had survived. And they'd survived because humans had refused to give up, and because that refusal had inspired others to be better than their normal instincts told them to be. Talon turned to face the observers. "You have seen what you came to see. Humanity passed the test. The question now is what we do with that knowledge." The Velion diplomat who'd called the humans foolish was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "I have never seen anything like this. My people would not have come. We would have calculated the costs and decided it was not worth it." He looked at Hana. "Your species shames us. But perhaps that shame will teach us to be better." One by one, the other observers said similar things. They were moved. They were changed. They had watched humans do something they hadn't thought was possible. Talon approached Hana. They was with her. As always, now riding on the ambassador's shoulder. "You were right to be angry with me," Talon said. "This test was cruel, but it was necessary. The galaxy needed to see what humans truly are." "We're just people," Hana said. "We're not special." "No," Talon agreed. "You are not special. You are extraordinary. There's a difference." She placed a hand on Hana's shoulder. "What you did for my daughter was not unique to you. It was human. That is the most hopeful thing I have learned in all my years." Down on Haven Point, the survivors were pulling people from rubble and treating the wounded. Ships from a dozen species were landing with medical supplies and food. The colony would rebuild, and it wouldn't rebuild alone. Hana thought about the 5 credits she'd spent on a dying cub. About how one small choice had led to all of this. She didn't understand it fully, but she knew it mattered. 2 years had passed since Haven Point. 2 years since humanity had proven to the galaxy that compassion wasn't weakness, but a kind of strength that could inspire others. The galaxy had changed in those 2 years, and so had Hana. She stood now on the bridge of a ship that belonged to no single species. The Unity was the first joint-built vessel in galactic history, designed and crewed by humans and Maratans working together. Hana served as humanity's chief liaison to the Maratan Empire, though her title barely captured what she actually did. She was a bridge between species, a translator not just of words, but of values. The war against the Kryn swarm continued, but it was different now. The coalition had reformed itself with humanity as a founding member. Not because humans had the best weapons or the fastest ships, but because they brought something more valuable. They reminded other species that survival meant more than just preserving yourself. They sat at Hana's feet, no longer a small cub, a young Maratan nearly half Hana's height. She still followed Hana everywhere, and the two had become famous across known space. Images of the human woman and the Maratan cub appeared on news broadcasts from 100 worlds. They were symbols of what was possible when different species chose to care about each other. "Ambassador Talon is requesting your presence," a human crew member said. His name was Choi Jun-ho, and he'd been one of the defenders of Haven Point. He'd lost an arm in that battle, but he'd survived, and now he served on the Unity's bridge crew. "Tell her I'm on my way," Hana said. She scratched behind Day's ears, making the young Maratan purr. "Come on, you. Your mother wants to see us." They walked through corridors where humans and Maratans worked side by side. It still amazed Hana sometimes. 2 years ago, most humans had never even seen a Maratan in person. Now they served together, learned from each other, and in some cases had become friends. The galaxy still had its problems. There was still prejudice, still fear, still those who thought mixing species was a mistake. But change was happening, slowly, steadily. Ambassador Taelin's quarters on the Unity were similar to the ones on the Eternal Dawn, but warmer somehow, more personal. There were human artifacts mixed with Maratan art. A photo of Haven Point's rebuilding ceremony sat on a shelf next to a Maratan honor blade. Taelin was standing by the window, looking at the fleet assembled outside. It was massive. Ships from 20 different species, all flying in formation. The largest joint military operation in galactic history, preparing to push back the Kryn advance. "We're about to make the jump to the front line," Taelin said without turning around. "The Kryn have taken the outer reach systems. If we don't stop them there, they'll have a clear path to the core worlds." "The fleet is ready," Hana said. She moved to stand beside the ambassador. Day sat between them, looking out at the ships with bright eyes. "I wanted to talk to you before the battle," Taelin continued. "To remind you of something important." "What's that?" "This fleet exists because of you." Taelin finally looked at her. "Because you spent 5 credits on my daughter." That single act of compassion created ripples that changed the galaxy. Hannah shook her head. "It wasn't just me. It was Haven Point. It was all the humans who came to help and all the aliens who saw that and decided to be better. Yes, but you were the first stone thrown into the pond. You created the first ripple." Taelin gestured at the fleet. "Look at them. Valions who once cared only for profit now fight alongside us. Crash who never cooperated with outsiders now share their technology. Tyrans who calculated every trade now give medical supplies freely. Even my own people have changed. We are learning that honor can extend beyond our family bonds." "People can surprise you," Hana said. "When they're given a reason to hope, they want to be part of something better." Day made a soft sound and leaned against Hannah's leg. The young Maratan had learned some human words over the years, and she spoke now in accented English. "Are we going to win?" It was the question everyone was asking. The Kryn swarm was powerful, relentless, and they didn't negotiate. They consumed worlds and moved on. The Coalition's new unity was impressive, but would it be enough? "I don't know," Hana said honestly. She'd learned that lying to Day never worked. The young Maratan was too smart. "We're going to try our hardest. That's all anyone can do. Father says humans always hope, even when things look bad," Day said. "Is that true?" Hannah smiled. Day's father, Commander Soong, had become one of humanity's strongest advocates after his research 2 years ago. He now taught at the Coalition's new Joint Academy, training the next generation of officers from all species. "Yes," Hannah said. "We hope. Sometimes that's all we have. But hope is powerful. It keeps you moving forward when everything says to give up." "I hope we win," Day said firmly. "I want to see Haven Point someday. Governor Yuna said I could visit, and she'd show me the golden fields." Taelin touched her daughter's head gently. "You will see it. I promise." An alert sounded through the ship. Captain Myra's voice came over the communication system. "All hands, prepare for faster than light jump. We're heading to the front lines. May honor guide us all." "That's my cue," Hana said. She had a role to play in the upcoming battle. coordinating communication between different species ships. Languages and protocols varied, and misunderstandings could be deadly. "I'll see you both after." "Hannah," Taylin said, stopping her. "If things go badly, I want you to know something. You gave me back my daughter. You taught me that compassion is not weakness. You changed me, and through me, you changed my people. Whatever happens out there, that matters. It will always matter." Hannah felt her throat tighten. "You changed me too. You gave me a purpose when I had nothing. You showed me that one person can make a difference." She looked at Day. "Take care of your mother." "I will," Day promised solemnly. Hannah left them there and made her way to the communication center. The battle was about to begin, and she had work to do. The jump to the front lines was smooth. When the fleet dropped back into normal space, they found themselves facing a Kryn armada that darkened the stars. Hundreds of organic ships, maybe thousands, stretching as far as sensors could reach. "All ships, this is Admiral Park Esiel," a voice announced. The former mining captain had risen through the ranks to command a section of the human fleet. "Remember why we're here. We fight not just for our worlds, but for all worlds. We fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone who can't fight. Show them what happens when the galaxy stands united." The battle began. It was fierce. It was terrible. Ships died on both sides. Hannah coordinated communications, helping different species understand each other's tactics, helping them work as one unified force instead of separate groups. She watched on the displays as a Vellum ship moved to protect a damaged human vessel, taking hits that would have destroyed the smaller craft. She saw Myritan fighters coordinate perfectly with human pilots, their different styles of combat complementing each other. She saw Kresh ships share shield technology in real time with Terran vessels, cooperation that would have been unthinkable 3 years ago. The battle lasted 18 hours. In the end, the Kryn were forced to retreat. The outer reach systems were saved. The victory came at a terrible cost, with thousands dead and many more wounded. But they had won. Together. In the aftermath, as medical ships moved between the fleet and crews work to repair damage, Hannah found herself back in Taylin's quarters. The ambassador was there with Day, both of them looking tired but alive. "It's not over," Taylin said. "The war will continue. There will be more battles." "I know," Hannah replied. "But we proved something today. We proved that unity works. That when different species trust each other, when they care about each other, they're stronger than the sum of their parts." "The Hannah Principle," Captain Mira said, entering the room. She had a bandage on one arm, but was otherwise unhurt. "That's what they're calling it. The idea that compassion creates bonds stronger than contracts. That caring for others makes everyone more capable." Hannah laughed. "That's not a principle. That's just being decent to each other. For your species, perhaps," Myra said. "For the rest of us, it is something we must learn. But we are learning, because you showed us it was possible." Months later, Hannah stood on Haven Point for the first time. The colony had been rebuilt, more beautiful than before. The golden fields stretched to the horizon, swaying in the wind. A memorial stood in the center of the main square, listing the names of all who had died defending this place. Governor Yuna was there, older now but still strong. "Thank you for coming," she said to Hannah. "We wanted you to see what you helped save." "I didn't do anything," Hannah protested. "You're the ones who fought, who stayed when you could have run. You started it all," Yuna said. "You spent your last credits on a dying cub. That choice rippled outward, touching millions of lives. You reminded us who we are, what we're capable of." Day was running through the fields with a group of human children, playing some game that involved a lot of laughing and falling down. Human parents and Meritan observers watched together, no longer seeing aliens, but just children being children. This is what I hoped for, Taylin said, standing beside Hana. When I first learned what you did for my daughter, I saw a possibility. A chance that,